Raja Yoga and the spiritual path. Hello, this is Chris speaking. Wake up with a video about the Raja Yoga. I already made 2 videos about the yogas, one about Bhakti Yoga and one about Karma Yoga. Now it's Raja Yoga's turn. Raja Yoga is a very special, interesting and powerful yoga. It has very little to do with what people usually think yoga is, although it incorporates also asanas. And what most people think yoga is asanas, which are certain postures, which look like gymnastics, but they're not. They're actually there to free and charge the nadis and the chakras. Also to accumulate prana and to silence the mind. So usually people start with the asana and pranayama aspect. But really, you have to start with character building. It's an internal and external discipline, and afterwards you start with asanas and pranayama. First, you have to be in charge of your thoughts and emotions to some degree. Do no harm to others and be aware of what's going on in your mind and in your body. Those are the first 2 steps. Then pranayama and asanas. Pranayama is breath control and asanas is prana control through postures. You control your nervous system and your nadis and chakras. Afterwards, you learn how to silence your mind, how to direct your attention, how to withdraw your senses, and only later, once you've mastered all this, comes the final goal of a peaceful consciousness and maybe even enlightenment. And there are 2 systems or 3 interesting systems that are based on Raja Yoga. One is Kriya Yoga, which is supposed to be founded or have been founded by Babaji, the Maha-Avatar of the Himalayas, a guy who doesn't die and comes again and again and is not bound to a physical body anymore. Then Kundalini Yoga, which is again kind of an offshoot of Kriya Yoga, and Sahaj Margh, which is now called Heartfulness. Although Sahaj Margh is mainly focusing on these first 2 steps, the internal and external discipline and character formation and cleansing. It's a lot about cleansing. They don't teach any asanas or pranayama. And they also don't teach any siddhis. Because the next thing that is very famous about Raja Yoga is the development of siddhis and vibhutis, powers, supernatural powers or abilities. But this can be a huge distraction. They come by themselves anyway, because what happens when you master these 4 first steps, internal and external discipline, asana and pranayama, is siddhis start to happen. You suddenly start perception of strange stuff, or you find out that you can do funny things. Like I like this one story about this one guy who didn't need to eat anything, but he would like to drink a certain type of milk, and someone tried to poison him and gave him a lie, pot of lye to drink, but he was impervious to it. Nice story. But these kind of stories, they show that these cities, they can be a distraction. You can also, once you start feeling that they have begun to develop, you can spend a lot of time into further developing them and honing your skills, and thus actually lose a lot of time that you could use for more useful things like meditation and surrender. And as has been described by Lahiri Mahasaya and others, sooner or later the Raja Yoga will be combined with Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga and so on. Yeah, the Bhakti Yoga component is to adore your Guru and your lineage. The Jnana Yoga component is that a lot of Indian Vedic knowledge and Bhagavad Gita and so on are usually taught. And the Karma Yoga aspect is to find something to give back to society. For example, founding a school like Swami Yogananda did in Ranchi and so on. For some reason, Sri Aurobindo was not so fond of Raja Yoga because he thought it mostly a distraction with the cities, firstly, and secondly, he didn't have the impression that it was the way for a lot of people. So Sri Aurobindo tried to find a way that was possible for a lot of people to walk. And while he saw that many people reached a high stage of consciousness with Raja Yoga, his impression was that this was not a viable way for a majority of human beings. That's why he found it a different integral yoga. And any yoga in the end must be integral and must incorporate other yoga styles. But Hatha Yoga and Raja Yoga are not necessary and are very peculiar and specific styles that may not be everyone's cup of tea. But many outstanding Indian and Himalayan masters have walked the path of Raja Yoga, and for them it was very, very effective. So, thank you very much for listening, and thumbs up and hitting the bell button. Thank you for joining me as a Patreon. Thank you for all my Patreons. Thank you for recommending this video to your friends, and see you soon.